Marketing feels like it's changing every 5 minutes. AI tools are everywhere, algorithms are shifting, and attention spans are shrinking. And consumers are harder to reach than ever before. The strategies brands relied on even a year ago already feel outdated. Today's guest is Michelle Carroll, President of One Stop Marketing Solutions, and recently named President of SFIMA, the South Florida Interactive Marketing Association. Michelle has built and scaled a full-service digital marketing agency working with brands across e-commerce, lifestyle, wellness, DTC, and CPG, helping businesses navigate everything from SEO and paid media to influencer marketing and automation. So today we're talking about what's actually changing in marketing halfway through 2026, what brands are getting wrong, what they're getting right, and what businesses need to pay attention to moving forward. So welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Me too. I'm very excited. From SFIMA is how we met. Yeah. And we also got to work together on a client recently. And I knew that it'd be, nice to have you on, especially because you do work in marketing in so many different assets, not just social media. And a lot of them really do tie together, and things are changing fast and rapidly.
They are, yes. And that's the exciting part of why we do digital marketing, actually, because I love the fast-paced and also doing full-service marketing. I love that we're always having to evolve our strategy and that we don't have to just be pigeonholed into one, vertical.
Right.
And I think we both work on numerous verticals together.
Yeah. So let's go back and tell me about your journey into marketing and your company.
Great. Yes. So I am really just excited to share that I've started in digital marketing really in the late 90s, actually. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, before the .com era, I was one of the early adopters. Very lucky to have some really great opportunities with some early .coms such as learn.com and eDiets.com. And then I segued working to Consumer Reports. And then in 2007, I founded One Stop Marketing Solutions. So we're almost at 20 years of doing digital marketing. So I really do consider myself very blessed and also fortunate to be able to work in this space for so long and to consider myself like an industry veteran, but at the same time be able to collaborate with a lot of young entrepreneurs such as yourself and be involved with marketing organizations like SFIMA, where, we're sharing and building communities.
Yeah. And I think that's what's unique about marketing too, is I think a lot of people in other industries might feel like there's competitors or, they, can't share what the other people are doing. And in marketing, it's such a collaborative industry. And even other agencies are happy to learn from each other and build from each other and figure out how to work together. And I feel like SFIMA does a good job bringing people together. And then also with the monthly meetings, it's not just networking. There's always a topic that we're learning. And that's how I got involved in the beginning, because I was like, I need to make sure being in this industry that I'm always on my A game learning, never stop learning. And I think that's what's nice about this industry, and that you can always talk to somebody else who's better at what you do, or somebody else who needs help or advice of what you do. And people are happy to give it and share it.
Yeah, I mean, we really do have to stay abreast because, the industry is evolving, whether it's new social media channels that get added, or it's, Google that, rolls out new algorithm updates. Yeah. And, obviously with AI, as you mentioned, just having to stay abreast of how to optimize for your client goals.
Definitely. So I want to ask you, how has the marketing industry changed since you first started?
So I'd say that the pace is the biggest thing. When I started, you could run a campaign, for 90 days or, 6 months, measure it and adjust. And now you're measuring in real time and adjusting constantly. So the feedback loops are so much faster, and also with massive shifts in data, as I mentioned, and also just in the early days, we were really building some of these channels, and we really kind of went off of gut instinct. It wasn't like we had best practices.
Right.
And we really didn't have, we had basic analytics if we were lucky. So having access now to like behavioral data, predictive modeling, attribution across channels.
Yeah.
So it's really not like the lack of data. It's
No.
really, most brands don't know what to do with the data.
Yes.
And that's where I think experienced strategists like earn their value. So we went from trusting our gut to drowning in data.
It's so true. And what's interesting is you brought up, how campaigns could be longer and now everyone wants kind of like that instant. And I think because we're in a world where everyone gets everything instantly, you have Amazon Prime who will deliver to you literally in the same day.
Exactly.
And yet a lot of these platforms still function almost on the older models of like campaigns, especially even organic social media. You're not going to see true results in a week. You're going to see results in 2 to 3 months. But getting clients on board with that, is hard.
As we know, yes. So also it's really, I think, educating the clients on what numbers or what data actually matters and what those KPIs are, because of what you said. Like they may be looking at certain metrics that are not really what we need to focus on. So yeah.
And it's reminding them, like we have a client recently who did organic social with us, and the numbers, it's only been a few weeks and the numbers are astronomical, like from like where it was to what it is now. But they're like, oh, that's great, but now where's the sales? And we're like, well, it's organic. And like you explained in the beginning, but you got to keep reminding them of like, this is step 1, step 2. And I think people just don't realize in marketing, or like they can watch something or they think like ChatGPT or Claude will do it. Yeah. And it's kind of just reminding them, like sometimes the old principles still come into play.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting that a lot. It's like, okay, especially with, Claude or ChatGPT. And of course, we leverage AI.
Yes.
But they're not going to replace, strategic thinkers and understanding how to really use that data in a meaningful way.
It's so true. So you run a company, you're president of an association, and you're a mom. How do you balance all of that in your day-to-day life and your entrepreneurship, world?
Thanks. That's actually the reason that I became an entrepreneur. So I'm really blessed to have an 18-year-old son in college and just finished his first year at MIT. I'm super proud. And a 16-year-old daughter who's a sophomore, soon to be junior in high school. And so what I wanted was to be able to continue to work in the industry that I love and share my experience, but to create my own schedule.
Yes.
And to also choose the clients that I get to work with. I really do firmly believe in a work-life balance. And I know some people think balance is bullshit, but I implement very intentional practices. I've been practicing yoga and meditation and woo-woo stuff.
Yes.
For many years, grounding practices, spending time with friends, family, God. And I think that it's important to kind of know your why, so to speak.
Yes.
And kind of go back to that. And I have had times as a working mom where I have to pull back.
Yes.
And, realize like, what's your priority right now? You have certain seasons where honestly, in my life, the kids, what I was doing with them and the family was more important. So I think building a team, building systems, being able to delegate, that's been important. But at the same time, also learning to just pull back and say no.
Yeah, no, it's important. It's important. Like, no is a full sentence. I think people forget that. Or a lot of times as women, we're like, we want to do it all and we want to please everybody, but sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
There's actually a great book called Hustlers and Seekers that I love. And it kind of balances like the hustle and grind, like lifestyle and like the woo-woo style.
I love it.
And basically what it says is in this book is how people, most people kind of like war within themselves of where they fall on that scale. And basically the way it goes into how it does is like, don't punish yourself if in a day, maybe 90% of that day you felt you wanted to hustle and only 10% was like journaling or a walk. Or the other day you don't really want to work at all and you kind of do like 90% of this and 10% of work. Basically finding that balance within your week.
I love that.
And you can be a better person when you know how you work best in that.
Completely.
And I think people don't realize, or people think like, routines. Like, and I think entrepreneurship lets people break a routine, because I even know people who have businesses and they're like, oh, I worked 12 hours this day because I was in the zone. But then the next day I was literally in nature and turned my phone off.
Completely.
So like, you kind of have to have that mix.
I definitely do that. I was very blessed for a long time to actually implement a 4-day work week. So I intentionally would take off Fridays, a half day at least of not scheduling meetings so I could have that downtime. And that was like, depending on, what had to get done. Sometimes it was just, self-care.
Yes.
Paddleboarding, rollerblading.
Right. And it makes you a better person.
Making sure that you go to your doctor's visits, like just doing normal stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, coming from a family who, my mom worked, had her career, I feel like as kids, it's nice to see your parents have passions and a career and things that they do, because it just empowers you growing up. So I think, that probably also helped your kids as well, seeing you thrive in your career.
Yeah. And also just by default, I've raised independent humans. So, I'm not knocking anyone for their style, but I'm not a helicopter mom by any means. Like, you had to learn to, do things on your own. And it was great because, as I launched my son off to college, like, I was like, did you do your laundry? He's like, yeah, I did it. I'm done. Like, it's just flawlessly working. So that's just what worked for me.
Yes. No, I was so independent in the fact that I found a wash and fold service in college.
I did the same.
And I was like, well, I'm going to save time. Instead of doing that, I'll just study. It was very funny. And my parents like, well, of course you're going to figure it out.
Of course, yeah.
But no, it's amazing. And your son went out of state too. So it's not like he was around the corner.
Yes.
And I'm sure because he felt prepared and ready, he enjoyed it versus being homesick. And
yes,
that's nice. So it feels like consumers are behaving differently online now than ever before. Social media feels different. Google and search feels different. And brands are fighting harder and harder for attention. What's the biggest marketing shifts you're seeing halfway through 2026?
So 3 things that are colliding right now in a way I've never seen before. First, AI.
Yes.
It's not just a tool anymore. It's embedded in how content is created, how searches are answered, how, people plan, their day. I have friends that are using it, just as like therapist or to help them, do their grocery shopping, plan itineraries, everything. So I really do think that how buyers make decisions is number one thing. Second is consumer trust. I think for many reasons it's at an all-time low. So people are skeptical of ads, skeptical of brands. Also, there's like a big cancel culture or just expecting perfection. And then the third, which is kind of attributed to those two, is attention is just genuinely scarce because there's just so much out there. So brands are navigating this. The brands that are navigating this well are the ones that have invested in building like real communities, real connections, and not just audiences. So I think, an audience watches whereas a community participates.
Yes.
And that's, sort of what we're trying to do, obviously, with growing SFIMA together, both of us being on the board.
Yeah.
I think the distinction right now is the key because the brands that are winning now spent years building communities and not just follower accounts. So
we're seeing that big right now. We really are. Even like, the TV channel Bravo, when they started doing BravoCon to like build a community and have a conference and people come together, like that was a digital media, entity. And now they're trying to do in-person events. A lot of brands are starting to do more of that.
Right. Like I participated in Mom 2.0 a couple times. And, that's like really how a lot of because obviously, we know moms are, for many industries, the decision makers. So for a lot of our clients, it's the primary target.
Yes.
I understand that that target market very well. So I've worked with brands where we need to, get out there and actually meet some of those influencers and decision makers. And at those curated events, in-person events is where, I think that some of those relationships are established, as well as what you're doing. with regards to podcasts, so people can really understand, the topics you're interested in and, more organic content that really fits in.
It's true. And a lot of this content also feeds into AI. We actually had recently a potential client call. And I always ask, because we're a small agency and a lot of our clients are referral based or from connections. And I was like, well, how did you find me? Or how did you find us? Like, I don't know them at all. They were like, oh, Claude recommended you.
That's great.
And that's from podcasting and all these things. And all these things that I'm telling my clients to do, it's working.
Yep.
But then that also comes to the sense of people are using AI, like you said, for their day-to-day or that's their first search now.
It is.
So it's important to be there. But then also knowing where the line is drawn. Like we released an episode this morning about a lot of brands starting to use AI in videos, and that's building like a distrust, because now people want to go to an event or they want to buy a product. Like there's a big trend going on where people are trying to like, this is my last time making these hats or these purses and I'm selling my shop, yada, yada. Meanwhile, it's a fake person. Yeah, it's fake. It's AI. And they're coming from like a shop in China.
Right.
So now that's putting people off. So now it's like use AI for a tool, but don't let it replace realness.
Completely. That's like AI slop, right?
Yes.
And I really think that we are at a point where most consumers now can tell the difference and are turned off by it. So like I said, the distrust is just going to continue. But and kudos to you for getting found in Claude and ChatGPT. I actually launched a separate brand a couple of years ago, focused on one of my passions, wellness tourism, the Metamorphic Agency, and strictly just from doing content in the website and doing it correctly. That's how I've gotten some of the leads and the referrals. When I ask, where'd you find me? Obviously SEO, because, we know how to do SEO. But really it's been, you were featured in the ChatGPT or the Claude answers. And so it just goes back to, and this is also reinforced by Google's latest algorithm updates with regards to AI in terms of the content that's actually going to be sticky and found, whether it's podcasters, bloggers, or, anyone doing content. It's how can you really put your unique twist or your feedback or your opinion.
What AI can't replicate.
Exactly. So I think going back to I know a lot of people are scared AI is going to take over this, that, but, the storytelling aspect of it and the brand is important.
So true. And you talked about community and, really today, like community collaboration matters more than ever before. And it's a huge reason why organizations like SFIMA are continuing to grow. And I want to talk about that. What role does SFIMA play in the South Florida marketing community?
So first of all, SFIMA, I can proudly say that South Florida Interactive Marketing Association has been around since the early 2000s, since 2003. And so really, it has been at the forefront of the growing digital marketing tech space here in South Florida. It's really the connective tissue of the South Florida marketing industry. It's where a lot of agency owners, such as myself, as well as many of the past board members, past SFIMA presidents, and also, new marketers in the industry, brand side marketers, freelancers, vendors, we can all come together in the same room and learn from each other. And there's nowhere else in South Florida, I think, where that happens at this level. There are other digital marketing or tech meetup groups. But I think that the longevity of SFIMA speaks for itself. And also, as incoming president, it's my mission to make SFIMA the most practitioner-focused marketing organization. So we're going back to kind of our original mission and not just doing events for the sake of events, but really focused on education. And peer learning. We're going to test out some new formats also this year in terms of not just doing the monthly educational events, but we're looking at some more like collab. We're day
Yes.
events, and also just publishing content that actually advances careers and businesses. Like SFIMA has actually been responsible for a lot of people launching their careers.
Yes.
And also we've also in the past had relationships, marriages start from SFIMA.
Yes.
So so we're working really hard to expand our reach locally, but also nationally through partnerships. So if there are any brands who want to get involved with SFIMA, either as potential sponsors or have upcoming educational events as a speaker or a panel, please reach out to us.
Yeah. And I think something you said too is, about this community and about education. And I think there's something going on, especially in 2026 in the trends of, I think a lot of people think like, oh, the younger people are really not as interested, but then, or like getting the younger people out is harder in the sense of like, that's the stigma. But now lately there's been such a trend. I don't know if you've seen it online. Like in Manhattan, for example, there's a lot of young 20-somethings flocking to Catholic churches.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's a whole to-do. It's all over the news. Flocking to Catholic churches just to find community and to find people. And people are like, these are traditional mass services. Like, it's nothing in the sense of it is it like so special or different. It's mass, but they just want to meet people and find people. And I think organizations like SFIMA is good for, especially for the people who are working from home or who are new to Fort Lauderdale or new to South Florida. And they're like, I need to, meet more people, not just to advance the career or learn, but just to have someone to bounce ideas off with.
Yeah. And I mean, that's really why, we started this. It was kind of like our water cooler. And,
Yes.
I'm inspired by that story. I had not heard about it. And as someone that, is raised Catholic, I love that. Probably it's because so many young people are just tired of like the dating apps and, the kind of like the fake meetups and stuff. So, I'm all, like I said, I'm all about like, what is your passion and do something that's aligned with that.
Yes.
So, if you're going to find community in, whether it's a church or coming to SFIMA events, we're going to be aligned because, you're in the industry talking to people that are, interested in the same topics.
Yes. And it's more accessible than ever before. And I feel like a lot of the people I've had on recently, they're all about building communities or they're part of the South Florida community, building their own micro communities, and everyone's craving it and wanting it. So it's there for people just to find.
Right. I've been doing that. I've been a part of different women's empowerment communities for the last several years. So this is a nice segue for me to, give back for an organization I've been a member of for 20 years almost, but at the same time, expand our reach to, as you mentioned. So we actually have several young members on our board and, recent college that are in college as well as college graduates.
Yeah, and they're hungry to learn and grow, and it's amazing to see. Because people are craving even like wellness and health, but then there's also business. I think there's also a concern or a worry that there's a tipping point of, are there too many of these run clubs? Are there too many of these meetups? Are there too many of these communities? Or can they all function and can they all kind of survive? And I think that's a bigger question of a trend for 2026. Like, will the big ones stay in the mix?
Right.
Or will they fizzle out? Or, I'm always about, I think there's so many people that like, even if they all can function and if they have 100 people each, that's great versus 1,000. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that. As far as just the larger community here in the greater Fort Lauderdale area, I recently actually moved to Fort Lauderdale from Hollywood, where I lived, and I wanted to meet more locals and also at the same time continue with my fitness goals.
Yes.
So you mentioned the Fort Lauderdale Run Club. There are a couple different run clubs.
Oh yeah, a ton.
I've gone to, and what I like about it is you can sort of see which one you feel aligned with, or sometimes they're on different days depending on your schedule. One of them is a 2-mile run or 3, and that's just an example. But I do feel like there are so many people coming to this area that are hungry for real connections. And at the end of the day, whether it's the run club or I've gone to poetry slams or whatever, poetry, open mic nights, or trivia night, again, I feel like it's just the hunger for people to want in-person connections outside of the fact that we are online.
Yes.
A lot of us are online working, whether it's, in front of our computers doing loan work or Zooms or in meetings back to back. So I also really love that it's not just going for drinking. And, I think there's a lot that's happening outside of just, it may be a happy hour meetup, but I'm seeing a lot of like more health conscious activities. And so, and I think that's actually fostered by the younger generation, a lot of that.
I recently had Amy on the podcast, and she's with the Beauty Boost, and we're talking about how a lot of their events are not focused around alcohol or drinking.
Exactly.
And people are craving like activities. Or I have a friend who also runs Art Club Fort Lauderdale. And like a lot of these people who attend, they just wanted to find something to do that wasn't going to the bar.
Correct. Yeah. So So I've done that because even if I do want to go out for drinks, like maybe it's not, Monday through Friday, maybe during the week, there could be another activity we do.
Yeah.
And so to that point, just to kind of, again, segue back to SFIMA, we are looking at outside of just doing like the regular educational and networking events, we have in the past done fun events. So one of the things that the board is looking at is possibly a pickleball tournament.
Right.
But these types of activities that get groups together and also give brands an opportunity to sponsor. Yeah, and that's what
I was going to say too. I think, there's room. If anyone listening to this episode is like, what can I get out of this part of it? It's that there's room for more in-person events. People are craving it, communities. And even if your brand or company is not in the space to foster your own community, you can always be a sponsor of one or join on to another one. And as your company can still be part of a bigger one. Like I know for us at Goat Social Media, we're a small business, but we're within a bigger community, having our office at General Provision.
Exactly.
And then I do find it my responsibility to attend the happy hour events here or to go to the other events that are happening, because that's the point of being part of a community, is having that responsibility as well. And it's, Goat Social Media is not creating our own technically. Well, now the podcast is kind of creating its own bubble, but you can still be part of it. Or like SFIMA, for example, is like our other way to be part of a bigger community. So I think a lot of brands listening to this, they might hopefully get inspired to find their niche somewhere of how they can join a community.
Definitely.
So we always close out every episode with 2 questions, and we ask all the guests the same 2 questions. So we're going to go with the first one. What's your current favorite social media platform and why?
So I'd say still it's LinkedIn because without, hesitation, the organic reach is still real. I think the audience is there, to learn and to connect. The conversations in the comments can be genuinely substantial. Like, even though I may spend a lot of time scrolling on Instagram or use TikTok for, like we said, shopping or, other inspiration, I feel like from a professional standpoint, LinkedIn is really where it's at. And I appreciate that it rewards expertise and perspective. And for B2B, it's really, I think, where authority is built.
Yes.
So I just want to share. I believe in it so strongly that I told my son as he was starting college, I said, you need to create your own LinkedIn. And when he just came back on Thursday, and I asked him, I said, how's your LinkedIn doing? And he said he has over 700 contacts that he got like within the first, 6 months. So I feel like, and this is an 18-year-old, whether you're mid-career, or whatever age, LinkedIn is still appropriate.
It's true. It was the college football championship this year. It was the one quarterback who got MVP. I'm forgetting his name. So everyone, don't come for me, or my brother, especially listening to this, don't come for me. But he went viral because he updated his LinkedIn the next day.
Yeah. And really, John Summit, let's talk about him.
Yes.
His campaign, which was obviously, he was an accountant previously. He really did it all around LinkedIn. And by the way, he is my favorite EDM artist, though.
No, but it's so true in the sense of you have a lot of these big people who are also leaning on LinkedIn for a reason.
Whether it's an athlete or...
Exactly. So what's one social media trend that you wish would just disappear?
Well, I think we talked about it a little bit, which is like engagement bait or AI slop. You know, I as someone who I enjoy reading, so it was interesting that you mentioned the book. To go back to. So I sometimes like get posts will sometimes like trigger me into reading it something or a reaction, and then it's like a fake article leading questions or deliberately provocative statements that again, it goes back to the whole thing of like mistrust, so it's like it leads you down this path and you get like invested in it in terms of like just to boost engagement metrics, but it's manipulative and I think it reduces like the quality of other legitimate ads on the platform.
Yes.
So I think that your content strategy should really be, authentic.
Real. Yeah,
real.
Definitely.
And so, I mean, that's what I try to do. And I think that, the ones that don't just frustrate me.
Exactly. Well, Michelle, this conversation really shows us how quickly marketing is evolving, but also how important human connection really is. And the community around us is so important despite all the technology changes happening. And I'm going to link your LinkedIn, your business, One Stop Marketing Solutions, and SFIMA in the show notes. Anything else you'd like to share with the listeners?
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.